Alright, what's going on, guys? It's time for another part of Kingdom, and this time we're gonna cover the largest arc of the series, that being the Western Zhao invasion arc, which comes in at 147 chapters. There's gonna be a lot of ups and downs and iconic battles, and it's definitely one of the best arcs of the series as a whole. It's right up there with the Coalition invasion arc. And then to round things out, we're gonna end with the Zhao crisis arc. So that's gonna take us from chapter 500 to chapter 648, which means that after this video, we're gonna be in our last portion of the series. So yes, you did hear me right. By the next video, we are gonna be caught up with the current manga, which as of making this video, the manga is on chapter 795. So we're almost there, guys. I know it's been a long journey, but it's finally coming to its conclusion. But anyway, as always, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get started. The Qin army will reach Kinnan in 2 days, and that's where they'll change direction and head towards Gyou. It then becomes a race to get through Retsubi, and eventually towards Gyou. Osen decides to rest up as the rain prevents them from making progress. Gyou then begins to suspect that Kinnan might have secrets that he's unaware of, so he sends an urgent message to Riboku. Then, both Osen and Riboku would receive the same message, that Ordo of Yan is invading Zhao with his army. While Riboku's attention was turned to the east, Shin would arrive at Kinnan. Osen informs the various commanders of the plan going forward, to go to Gyou instead of Kokuyo. If any of the squads fall behind en route to Gyou, they'll be executed. Ordo starts carving up the eastern region of Zhao. He's now turning his attention to Seika, a region where a man named Shiba Sho resides. And sure enough, he's raising his forces to fight Ordo's army. Riboku then receives a report that they might have been deceived by the Qin at Kinnan. He then whittles down all the possible options, and determines that they must be going after Gyou. King Tojo of Zhao learns that Qin is making their way towards the heart of Zhao. So Riboku requests Canton to send its forces to Retsubi to prevent further advances. But Tojo denies this. Riboku makes haste, as they need the reinforcements to reach Retsubi before Qin does. Now Qin's army is moving at a breakneck pace. Zhao's forces look to slow down Qin, as Kanki's army takes up the challenge. Now Osen's army continues moving forward along with Yotanwa's army. Now the joint army encountered Zhao's soldiers numerous times, so they utilized the same tactic of a detachment force attacking the Zhao forces while the main army moved forward. The whole goal was to save as much time as possible. Messages come into Kanyo that the Qin army is only 2 days away from Retsubi. Now Ten likens Retsubi to Kankuku Pass, which means that they got their work cut out for them. It has been 10 days since they set out for Kinnan, and they have finally arrived at the desired location, Retsubi. Yotanwa and the Haishin unit are charged with taking down Retsubi, and they'll have to get this done within 2 days before the Zhao reinforcements come. Yotanwa steps forward as the mountain tribe shout, Lord of Death. They produce their war cry to put the Zhao army to shame. Now Zhao's greatest weapon was high morale, but Yotanwa aims to steal this from them. "O warriors of the mountains, bathe these lands in their blood!" yells Yotanwa. The mountain tribes avoid the arrows and aim for the gate, but it closes before they get there. The real siege then begins, with ladders being used in every direction. Yotanwa wants to use Bajio's tribe to climb the wall, but she needs some of Shin's archers to help her out. The mountain tribe archers are doing well, but Jean and Tan haven't shot anything yet. Jean takes the initiative and finally puts one of her arrows to good use. Tan's nervousness gets the best of him, as his accuracy is abysmal at this point. Fortunately, Bajio's tribe has reached the top of the castle, and is ready to demonstrate their might. The Haishin unit then gets prepared to charge. The mountain people find an underground tunnel that leads to the crank that opens the gate. Now Sugen saves Kanto from certain death, and it turns out that greenhorns always act irrationally in their first battle. Denyu gets knocked down by the enemy commander, but Shin quickly returns the favor. Now Shin goes to town with Oki's glaive. That being said, Shin is still taking some wounds because the glaive is a little bit too heavy for him at this point. And in less than 1 day, a Retsubi pass has fallen to Shin. Shin, wanting to gloat a bit, goes on top of the castle and raises the Qin flag for all to see. Ten gives orders to the men as the intimidating Osen walks past her. Now it's time for them to convert Retsubi into a viable supply line so that they can attack Gyou. Lose Retsubi, and Gyou is an impossibility. Zhao forces will not attempt to reclaim Retsubi, since Riboku laid a powerful trap there within the city itself. The older members of the Haishin unit bring booze to the newer members, to help them wash away their anxiety. They speak of Shin's accomplishments, saying there's not a man that's more badass or inspiring than Shin. Ten tells Jean that he will only grow stronger and stronger from here on. Later on, Yotanwa reveals that General Osen has vanished from Retsubi. Now if Shin fails to notice Retsubi's secret, then Zhao's victory is all but assured. Galloping through the night with Shin's fate on the line. 2 days have now passed since Osen vanished, and no one has stepped outside the castle walls. Ouhon then reveals that Retsubi was constructed in a manner that makes it hard to hold. It was done this way so it was easier to retake, and because of this, they can't really rely on it for a supply chain. Therefore, their options are limited, and it would seem that their best choice is to pack up and return home. What makes you think there isn't a fourth option available? Replies Kanki. He suggests that they abandon Retsubi altogether for an all-out attack on Gyou, and if they're successful, they can make Gyou their new supply hub. Just then, Osen's units arrive outside of Gyou to ascertain any weaknesses. It's the perfect city. It will not fall to an attack, says Osen. While Osen thinks up a plan, his units take care of some Zhao scouts. Osen returns 2 days later and says that they'll move forward, as the war will be a game of wits between him and Riboku. They thusly abandon Retsubi and march towards Gyou. Riboku is shocked to hear of Shin's advance, but if they stop them here, this will end Aisei's dream of unifying all of China. Word spreads to the other kingdoms of Shin's intent. Now Karen and Gohei may believe this will end in Shin's failure, which will severely weaken the state. In fact, both generals relish the opportunity of taking Kanyo for themselves. Many in the Shin army feel like this is a suicide mission, but Kanki says that Osen never picks a battle that he can't win. Yotanwa's 50,000 troops would then split off to fight the 90,000 strong Kosen army, and they're meant to stall them so that the main army can approach Gyou with no roadblocks. Ten then points out the supply line, their only lifeline that's saving them from death. And to everyone's surprise, Osen would then completely change heading and march towards Goda, a small city unrelated to Gyou. Now instead of taking from the Zhao, Ordo loses 2 cities to Chohaku. And with this, he returns to Yan, defeated. Riboku is then shocked to find out that Osen has attacked the small city of Goda. They take the city, secure the food supply, and under Osen's orders, they protect the civilians. He then releases all the citizens and gives them the orders to go to the next city. News reaches Kanyo of Osen's current actions, as they all wonder what he's up to. Osen proceeds to do the same thing at the next city, and they'll now split up into 3 armies, and continue to do the same thing at the 7 other cities. Now Yotanwa is expected to keep pace, as news comes in that Retsubi has been recaptured. The Shin armies continue capturing cities, as all the citizens are moving eastward. Shin wonders what's going on with this plan, as Kyoukai determines that the refugees are locusts. Just as the refugees appeared in the inner regions of Zhao, Riboku finally arrived at Canton. Riboku hears about Osen's actions in the swarms of refugees. Earl Choki, Lord of Gyou, goes out of his way to feed every last refugee that arrives in his city. Riboku realized that Osen weaponized refugees to take down Gyou. Shin sends smoke signals as Gyou shuts its gates, and it now houses 9 cities worth of refugees and a limited supply of food. It will turn into a battle of endurance in the form of provisions. Gyou is in Kanki's hands, as Osen sets out to strike the first blow on Riboku. Now King Tojo is none so happy with Riboku's efforts. Furthermore, he's more happy to live out his days in the capital until he succumbs to sickness. And that's because he doesn't really care about the citizens whatsoever. Riboku then runs into the Crown Prince, Ka, who commends his efforts. Unlike his father, Ka is ready to defend the city if need be. Now if Riboku can endure this darkness, the era of Ka will come and Zhao will be bathed in light. For Osen's plan to work, they must prevent Atsuo and Ryoyo from liberating Gyou. Heki will take 10,000 troops to aid Yotanwa against the Ryoyo army. Now the Osen army, along with Shin, Ouhon, and Mouten, will confront the Atsuo army. Their combined forces totaling 88,000 men. Now the reason that they have more men than anyone else is that Osen suspects that Riboku will attack from Atsuo. And with this, the victor will be determined by who can annihilate their respective opponent. Kosen is told to hold his position. That is until Shun Suju replaces him as a commander. Yotanwa receives word of Heki's 10,000 units coming in, but instead of staying defensive, she orders a swift attack. The destructive power of the mountain tribes completely surprised the Zhao. The time where men of war shall be bathed scarlet in blood draws near. The battle between Riboku and Osen has already begun in their minds. Kanki's army does well to prevent any liberating forces from reaching the city, but reports come in that Zhao forces are approaching the city from many different directions. The battle arrangements for Riboku versus Osen are as follows. Ouhon is on the right side, Shin is in the middle, and Mouten is by himself on the left side. And with this, Mouten's unit kicks things off. Now Shin is none so pleased with being positioned at the back center of the army. Now Osen's deployment to the left was a clear taunt at Riboku, enticing him to attack from the right. And Riboku shows no fear, ordering Kisu's 30,000 strong army to attack Chin's left flank. Kisu's army progresses forward, wondering why Chin won't move. Now, unbeknownst to them, Mouten split up his unit in half to attack Kisu's right flank. They then back off and get chased by pursuers. The pursuers then get ambushed by Mouten's other troops. "Welcome to the hunting grounds," says Mouten. Batai's cavalry looks to clean up the mess, so Mouten decides to withdraw. But Mouten has a counterattack plan to lure Batai in. Nevertheless, Batai proves to be quite adaptable and defends himself well. Kisu decides to change the formation of his army to counteract Mouten's attacks. But that's when Mako's army of the center would smash through. Now it turns out that Mako is part of the left wing, and only pretended to be in the center. In a flashback, this strategy was set in motion by Mouten. Wave after wave of Mako's units smash into Kisu's forces. Kisu rallies his men, but he senses that Mouten is a man of great talent. Kisu realizes that he fell into Osen's trap perfectly, which is quite the terrifying notion. In another flashback, Osen asks Mouten to join his retinue as a vassal. Now Mouten angrily declines, suggesting that he should extend an invitation to his own son, Ouhon. Now General Ako's army will handle the bulk of the work in the right army, while Ouhon's unit provides support. Now Ako is Osen's #1 general, so Ouhon feels slighted by his father's lack of faith in him. Ako, Osen's most trusted vassal, then smashes into the Gyakui army. Though Ako's army has no strategy, they are merciless in their attacks, charging forward no matter the circumstances. Bananji has seen enough of Gyakui, so he decides to enter the battlefield with his iron hammer in hand. Bananji splits his forces into an attacking portion and a distraction portion, with the former attacking the flanks of the first wave. A cavalry unit then runs between the waves of 1 and 2 to enter the fray, and it's none other than Ouhon. Now the battle is as follows, with Ouhon's group hitting Bananji's army from the right. In the distance, Osen observes the course of events. Ouhon then confronts Bananji, and says he'll pierce a hole in his brow with a single blow. Ouhon attempts to impale his skull while he's talking, but Bananji slaps his spear away, with every fiber of his being and soul, putting everything into this single instant. Ouhon disarms Bananji, but the Zhao general catches his arm and pulls him to the ground. Bananji attempts to pulverize him with his fist, yet Ouhon dodges. As a soldier tosses Bananji a glaive, General Ako comes in to attack him. "It would seem you're more of my cup of tea, O Chin commander," says Bananji. Bananji's army circles around to attack Chin's first wave. Osen then commands Shin to gather 800 of his fastest riders to kill General Kisu. Now the mountain tribes do well to dominate their enemy, as Yotanwa commands Heki to be at the ready. Gyou rides in with a dead mountain warrior attached to his horse. He then issues a direct challenge to Yotanwa. "I've burned his face into my memory," says Yotanwa. The Zhao then go into a full retreat, hoping to draw the Chin in. Now in the city of Ryoyo resides the Quanrong people, a race of warriors that nearly brought the Zhao down, and Gyou aims to use them against the Chin. Yotanwa can sense the aura of beasts coming from the Quanrong. Anyone who invades their lands will be shown no mercy. Now the Quanrong run down the cliff as the Heki unit begins to panic. The Quanrong give the mountain people a rude awakening, as Razu introduces himself to the Zhao leaders. Now he wants to cut off Gyu's head, but finds out that he's a representative of Riboku, whom he likes. Now the mountain tribes are descendants from the Quanrong, so Razu wants to flay Yotanwa himself. Yotanwa personally enters the battle as things start to heat up. They take up a mountain and start to rain arrows on the Quanrong. Impressed by her talent, Razu is a bit disappointed that he has to flay her. Meanwhile, Shin's unit emerges from the nearby forest, searching out General Kisu. "Move out, Hai Shin! Kisu's head is ours!" yells Shin. Now with this battle, Shin aims to reach the rank of general. Now the elite guard under Ryoto look to stop the Haishin unit so that they can preserve Kisu. Now with the lines collapsing, Kisu looks to retreat to his HQ, but that's when Shin comes storming onto the scene. Kisu's army is collapsing on all sides, yet the general does not want to give up. Riboku then leads a detachment force to deliver the final strike to General Mako. In a flashback, we find out that Riboku's detachment will serve as the army of assassins. Now it's very risky, but because the Chin don't know about this, It basically guarantees success for the Zhao. I entrust the rest to you, gestures Riboku to Kisu. With news of Mako's death spreading like wildfire, it was a complete reversal of the currents. Shin then runs off by himself, dead set on taking down Riboku. Now this is the current situation on the left battlefront, with Shin furiously chasing down Riboku. "Riboku!" screams Shin in a fit of rage. While Shin nips on Riboku's heels, the Zhao commander proceeds to provoke him. Now to avoid a possible ambush, Shin vows to capture Riboku's head one day, as he decides to turn around. Upon returning to the battlefield, however, the Haishin unit notices that a terrible situation has arisen without General Mako. With the loss of their leader, the Mako army has lost all momentum. To restore lost morale, the Mako army attempt to convince the troops that Mako was still living. Mouten now wants Shin and Rikosen to create 2 rallying points to create a sense of hope. A Mako soldier repeats Mako's famous words, reinvigorating the entire army. Mouten takes control of the situation as they have no room for hesitation or failure. Batai's unit is hellbent on avenging Ryuto by killing Shin and Kyoukai. The bulk of Mouten's remaining unit forces reinforce Rikosen's position. It's now time to push the front line with a single charge. Mouten cannot save them all, but he intends to revive the left half of the army to fight on another day. Kisu will not allow Riboku's sacrifice to be for naught, as he wants to crush the Chin right now and right here. And by day's end, Mouten's army was able to hold out, disrupting Riboku's original plans. After the first day of battle, Yotanwa is in a foul mood. Kanki's army also had a rough first day, since the endless barrage of attacks never stopped. Despite losing Mako, Ouhon states that the cold, calculating Osen will not lose his composure or resolve. An urgent message then comes into the left army. Now with the loss of Mako, Osen is using his power to temporarily elevate Mouten to the rank of general, and to use the left army as he sees fit. Shin, understandably so, is flabbergasted. It is now the start of the second day of the war. The layout of the right side is as follows, with Ouhon's army taking up the right flank. Now Chougaryuu of Zhao is focused on taking down one of the Qin commanders today, and from the beginning, he attacks Ouhon's left flank to create a pincer attack. Despite the odds, Ouhon has an epiphany and knows of a way to turn this around. Ouhon leads a small detachment force in the opposite direction of the main bulk. Chougaryuu attempts to chase him down, but Ouhon keeps moving straight ahead. He draws Zhao's reserves on his trail, as he remains focused on attacking the weak point of Bananji's line formation. Ako realizes this, and attacks Bananji's left flank, creating an effective pincer attack. "This is our hunting ground. Trample them beneath your hoofs." Akakin from Ako's army helps out with the pincer attack. Chougaryuu creates a detachment to attack Ouhon, but Akakin prevents this from happening. Shin would thusly take the advantage on the right side. Elsewhere, Shinsuju would leave the battlefield of Ryoyo, so as to sneak up on Heki's army. And with that, the second day was already done. Mouten effectively stalled Kisu's army, which is exactly what he wanted to do. Ouhon is then congratulated on his effective tactics, and is asked to speak with General Ako about the next day. Now Shin notices they're already starting to ration the food, which means that the battle might last longer than they thought. Heki then finds out that the Zhao had burned all their food stores, and this was done by none other than Shinsuju. Now the Zhao commander accessed one of Razo's underground tunnels, and because of this, he was able to burn the food supply. And with this, half of the food supply has been lost. Heki tried to atone for his mistake in battle the next day, but the Kwanrong easily toyed with him. Now messengers for Qin were quickly shot down, meaning that the 3 armies were unable to communicate with each other. Ouhon reminds them that the fight will be won on the wings, so reinforcements from the center means that Riboku is desperate. Here stands the man that once wore the mantle that symbolized Zhao's martial might. Gyou makes his presence known all over the battlefield for Zhao. The Zhao launch a massive offensive on the right wing on the 3rd day. Osen realizes that the right army could be in trouble, especially with Chougaryuu and Gyou participating in the attack. Spurred on by the untimely demise of his master, Gyou attempts to make up for lost time. Ouhon has seen enough, as he aims to uproot the Gyou army. Ouhon's army gets quickly surrounded, as Banyo looks like he's seen his last battle. Just then, surprisingly, the Haishin unit burst on to rescue the old Shin warrior. The 2 heroes shoulder to shoulder. The combination of Shin and Ouhon gives the Qin right army a much-needed boost. Chougaryuu does not want to lose control of the situation, so he aims to eliminate Shin and Ouhon himself. Under Osen's orders, Shin brought the entirety of the Haishin unit to the right army to help turn the tide. Now the current setup of the right side is as follows, with Ouhon's army on the left flank, the Haishin in the center, and the Ako army on the right flank. The Gyou army gives the Haishin unit a rude awakening. Nevertheless, the Haishin unit displays its resilience by standing their ground and fighting back. Though they're fighting well, Kyoukai determines that Zhao has the upper hand. 10 strategic moves are being read perfectly, but she can't determine the enemy's intentions whatsoever. Turns out that Ouhon is a strategically minded general that has had tactics drilled into his memory from early on. Unlike Tin, Shin can read Ouhon's tactics perfectly, and that's because Ouhon is an instinctual general, much like Gyou. And because Shin thinks in a similar manner, he'll need to take command over all the forces. Enter Shin, the strategist? Despite the improvement, Ouhon still has an advantage over Chin. The most brutal fight of the day is to take place, so Shin deploys Kyoukai along with the reserves. Ouhon was focusing his efforts on the Chin's right side, but Shin determined that this allowed a narrow passage leading directly to the enemy's HQ. Shin heads out as Ouhon impedes his path. Shin compares Ouhon's strength to Gaimo's of Wei. "I fought to claim the heads of every last one of Chin's 6th grade generals," says Ouhon. Shin claims that if Ouhon's master, Rinsho Zhou, didn't die to illness, he would have just been killed by General Oki. The time for talk is over, however, as the two engage each other in a furious combat. Ouhon mocks Shin's skills with Oki's glaive. Enraged, Shin musters up all his strength and attacks the Zhao general with all his might. Despite his best shots, Ouhon blocks them all and returns the favor in kind. Ten realizes that if N's position falters, the whole battlefield will snowball and become lost. Now to help out, Kyoukai wants to set up 2 blockades to funnel all the enemies down the middle, and that's where she's going to try to annihilate them. "Together we shall fight, and together we shall grasp victory today," says Kyoukai. Kyoukai begins giving it everything she's got, which comes at a cost because she needs to catch her breath. The day is coming to a close, as Shin continues to struggle on with Ouhon. Now the High Shin unit has done well to prevent the right side from completely collapsing. Ouhon then leaves Shin and inspects the left for himself, and he's absolutely surprised by what he sees. Because of his miscalculations, Ouhon has severely underestimated his opponent, and he'll have to rethink his strategy. Now at the close of day 3, the majority of the fighting happened on Shin's right wing. The exhausted Shin crawls his way to Kyokai's tent to check in on her. She then asks to hold Shin's hand, since it's a good luck charm within the Shiryu clan. Now for them to win this war, they'll have to exhaust all their strength, to the point that they're standing on death's door. At the Zhao encampment, they discuss Shin, Ouhon, and Mouten. Now if the 3 of them were allowed to mature, they would become true monsters. But if Zhao takes them down now, along with Osen, Kanki, and Yotanwa, the Qin army will be severely decimated. Now Riboku determined that the food supply for Qin will run out in 10 days. Fortunately for them, Gyou's food supply will last for 20 days, meaning that Qin is screwed. Messengers finally reach Qin after many died to Zhao soldiers. They hear about Osen's gamble on provisions, which seems kind of odd since Osen never fights a battle he can't win. It took the messengers 5 days to get here, which means that the Qin army only has 5 days of food left. It's the 8th day at Ryoyo, and the Quanrong are ridiculing the Qin for their lack of food. At nighttime, the mountain tribes fight amongst each other's horses since their hunger is getting the best of them. Yotanwa summons the tribe's chieftains and informs them that they only have 3 days of food left. They must thusly crush the enemy within that time and claim the food for themselves. To do this, they must eliminate the 3 swords of the Quanrong army. Since Heki's army lost half of their food supply, he begs Yotanwa for an opportunity to redeem himself on the battlefield. And she grants his wish, but reminds him that further failure will not be tolerated. The next day, 12 tribes totaling 5,000 men are ordered to fight alongside General Heki. Heki's army is tasked with killing Bunen, the cruelest of all the Quanrong. Because Sanju-ju realized that the Qin are running out of food, they more than doubled their army to prevent any of their leaders from falling. Despite this, Heki made Yotanwa a promise, and he intends to fulfill it. The Heki army utilizes a repair and defend tactic to draw in the Quanrong. It's not flashy, but it gets the job done. Kitari, who's not too fond of General Heki, claims she'll take Bunen just as the Qin general falls in battle. The 9th day of battle is commencing, and Yotanwa feels as though the 2 armies are evenly matched. The Zhao forces cease their attacks against the Kanki army, confirming suspicions that Gyou has more food than them. In fact, Riboku's army has taken up a defensive position as well, merely waiting out the Qin until they run out of food. The right army thusly needs to make haste, and they gotta focus on taking out a general every single day, starting with Gyou. So Ouhon and Shin would set off with the intention of taking out Gyou, but unbeknownst to them, this would backfire spectacularly. Realizing that the right army will make a move today, Riboku comes to inform Bananji of Ako's weakness. Now ever since Keisha died, Gyou has been waiting for a moment to exact his revenge on Shin. Because of this grudge, Ouhon suggests that Shin position himself at the front to lure out Gakue. Now the Ako army would take up a big responsibility of drawing in Bananji, Gyou, and Chougaryuu, so that Shin could take on Gakue alone. Now Ako is Osen's right-hand man for a reason, and he can more than handle himself. However, if Bananji can take him down now, that will be the final nail in Osen's coffin. Thinking of avenging Keisha, Gakue enters the battle in a fit of rage. General Ako is confident that the defense he inherited from Osen will not be broken. Bananji's army attacks the joints of Ako's formation, which proved to be the critical points upon which the defensive formation is based upon. General Ako attempts to alter his formations, but Gyou will not give him that luxury. Shin smashes through Gakue's first line, as he now lays eyes on the general himself. "What are you waiting for? Come, Shin, let me skewer your brain through your skull," says Gakue. Meanwhile, Gyou smashes his way through Ako's army. General Ako comes in, as he now finds himself in a fight against Gyou and Bananji. Realizing that the right wing can't afford to lose General Ako, Ouhon decides to turn left and help out. "The taking of Gakue's head shall be entrusted to Shin," says Ouhon. Despite fighting a 2-on-1 battle, General Ako is giving the Zhao generals everything they can handle. Unfortunately, it looks like his luck has run out, as Gyou looks poised for the final blow. Just then, a Kakin comes rushing in to rescue General Ako from certain death. While Zhao pursues a Kakin, Ouhon engages with Gyou. Realizing that the situation looks grim, the Ako army commences a large-scale withdrawal. Now realizing that their forces will soon be isolated, the Haishin unit has to take Gakue's head without further delay. Gakue doesn't wish to hesitate any further, charging forward for the sake of Keisha. Inspired by Oki, Shin swings his glaive through Gakue's body like hot butter. "A blow worthy of a great general," says Bihei. The time for celebration is going to have to wait, as Chougaryuu's forces are already bearing down on them. Now the impact of this swing would be felt deep in the mountains, by none other than Hoken of Zhao's Three Great Heavens. Elsewhere, General Heki's army is making the most progress against the Quanrong, as they now have the enemy HQ within their sight. They go for an all-out attack, but Bunin's soldiers absolutely brutalize them. The Mera tribe, led by Katari, then come in on the right flank to provide assistance. Bunin orders his archers to shoot the Mera tribe, even though it means sacrificing some of his elite soldiers. The reason this ridiculous tactic works so well for the Quanrong is because they rule through fear, and they will thusly kill anyone and their family if they disobey orders. Kitari looks to be done for, but General Heki comes in to save her. Kitari's older brother, Katari, takes down one of the enemy officers with a swift blow, but it turns out the Quanrong sacrificed themselves for this very purpose, so as to allow Bunin to achieve the fatal blow. Katari thusly meets his end, as his little sister is absolutely heartbroken. Though Kitari went into a fit of rage, the Mera tribe fell into a deep despair with the loss of their chieftain. Heki saves Kitari after she gets knocked down and orders a swift retreat. Unfortunately, with the sun coming down, Heki's promise to Yotanwa will have to go unfulfilled. Torque, the youngest brother of the Quanrong king, is then slain by Danto of the Mountain people. But Gyou's army was not able to fulfill its objective, as the Quanrong sound for retreat. Yotanwa, however, was not going to miss this opportunity of taking Goba's head. Regrettably, this was all predicted by Shansuju, as the mountain tribes now find themselves completely sandwiched between the Zhao and the Quanrong. And with this, even Razo decides to enter the battlefield. Now with the current formations as follows, Yotanwa's army is in a very precarious situation. Yotanwa orders a full-scale retreat, as Shansuju seems assured in his victory. Now instead of escaping through the gaps, Yotanwa decides to push forward straight into the Goba army. She penetrates through like hot butter, and in no time flat, she claims Goba's head for herself, shocking the Zhao and the Quanrong forces. Upon regaining consciousness, Kitari begs for Heki to give back her brother. Realizing that she must be strong, Kitari takes up the role as the next chieftain, and vows to avenge her brother by slaying Bunin. Word then comes in that the Zhao and the Quanrong are relentlessly pursuing the Yotanwa army, even in the dead of night. And thanks to the unfamiliar terrain, the Yotanwa army find themselves backed into a corner. Despite their forlorn position, Yotanwa's confidence does not waver, as she's assured that the mountain people will come out of this victorious. But Gyou's units make a path, allowing them to make for an escape. Shansuju and Razo are dumbfounded that Yotanwa was able to escape. Razo deploys the Gan clan, experts in tracking down people. They eventually reach Yotanwa's position, as it appears that they're on their last legs. But Gyou grabs onto Yotanwa and makes a run for it, even jumping across a large abyss to evade the captors. The two weary soldiers then lay on the ground and reminisce about their past battles. Yotanwa says that Gyou is still the strongest fighter that she's ever faced. The two limp up to their feet, but unfortunately, they're quickly surrounded by the Kwanrong. Gyou is henceforth knocked down as Yotanwa is taken away. Gyou then has a memory of when he was younger, and how Yotanwa inspired him and instilled confidence in him. And just this mere thought alone is enough to restore his vigor to the fullest, as he fights off the Kwanrong people. I will protect her! The Enshu tribe, i.e. the Wall Runners, then look to mount a counterattack to save Yotanwa. Gyou has given every last ounce of his strength to save Yotanwa, and it was just enough to allow the reinforcements to come in. They rescue their leader and go to town on the Kwanrong soldiers. As Razo and Shunsujuu close in, Danto looks to ambush them from a nearby cliff. No matter how many weaklings crawl up from the depths, none pose a challenge to I, Razo. Razo and Danto relish the idea of taking each other down. Within all the chaos, Bunin looks to seize Yotanwa for himself. Finally caught up to you sons of bitches, says Kitari. Now today will decide Shin's fate. Kitari will thusly go after Bunin to avenge her brother, and General Heki will have to go after Razo. Heki is a bit apprehensive, but Kitari reassures him that he can do it. Danto says that Yotanwa lured them all out here so that they could go after the city. Furthermore, they did this so that Razo would finally reveal himself on the battlefield. And sure enough, the mountain people are laying siege to the city of Kwanrong. Razo displays his impressive skills by slaughtering many mountain people. Kitari then manages to sneak up on Bunin from the rear. She begins by slicing off his fingers, followed up by chopping off one of his hands, and finally, she ends up slicing and dicing him to pieces. A showdown between kings. With Bunin now dead, Kitari will focus her efforts on protecting Yotanwa. In the midst of their fight, Danto ridicules Razo for not leading his people in the front like a real king should. Danto continues to trade blows, allowing a brief moment for Heki to come in and seize the biggest victory of the day. Unfortunately, Razo anticipated this and knocked him right off his horse. Danto attacks Razo while he's distracted, as the two hulking men cut off the heads of each other's horses. Razo then pins Danto down on the ground, as he looks poised to finish him off. But that's when the biggest Chad on the battlefield comes in. None other than General Heki himself, with a huge-ass glaive to slash right into Razo's big head. A roar unleashed. The various troops praise General Heki for his massive accomplishment. When Shunsujuu returns to Ryoyo, he finds out that it's already been captured by the mountain people. Yotanwa's army then surrounds the Zhao army from the rear, as the Kwanrong now choose to follow Yotanwa and the mountain tribes. And if Shunsujuu does not leave these lands, he'll have to contend with the Kwanrong people, meaning that he's completely lost. Yotanwa toasts General Heki as Ryoyo is now theirs. Gyou will make a full recovery, as they find out that Shunsujuu is now heading to Retsubi to seal off their exit. Though this is a major victory for Shin, they can't send messengers or food to Osen's army since the roads are all locked down. Kanki and Osen's armies are now down to 3 days worth of food. Despite Ako's severe injuries, the Right Army will continue on without him overseeing the battle. And after the 10th day of battle, Shin is visibly exhausted from the constant fighting. Despite not having their commander, the Ako army demonstrated their heroic efforts. The Ako soldiers then beg for Ouhon to be their new commander, and to take the reins for the Right Army. Osen then relays a message to the troops to maintain their high morale, but he does not use his power to elevate Ouhon to the rank of general. Shin then overhears a conversation that Ouhon might not be Osen's biological child. Now, Ouhon's mother is a woman called Shukai, but when she became pregnant, a rumor spread that she had a lover before her marriage with Osen. Now, Shukai can no longer be questioned about the matter, since she passed away during childbirth. Now, the Right Wing's food stores have reached their end. Each of the armies has about 1 day of emergency rations, which means that things are about to get really tough. Despite the dire circumstances, Ouhon fights on with all his might, and Shin reminds Ten that they need to do likewise. Another day comes to an end, as Zhao is certain that Shin will run out of food by tomorrow. The first of the final 2 ration distributions were being carried out, as the mood amongst the soldiers was a somber one. Ouhon pulls Shin aside and says that they need to awaken their units to pull off this victory. The 2 aspiring generals were now charged with unlocking a hidden potential within their respective units. The next day, Shin's right side begins to feel that something bad is about to happen. Shin and Ouhon would stand before their respective units, and would fire them up with with words of hope and bravery. And with this, an explosion of morale was sparked. Shin would then throw all tactics and strategy out the window, instigating an all-out attack against the Zhao. And by some strange twist of fate, Ouhon would do the exact same thing, as they would go in for an all-out attack at the exact same time. Despite this crude approach, Ten realizes that this is the strongest that the Haishin unit has ever been. Though Shin may be an idiot, everyone serving under the Haishin unit realizes that he's an incredible captain. Though their morale is off the charts, Ten realizes that their endurance will not last for long, so it's imperative that they finish this today. Gyou makes the startling revelation that Ouhon and Shin are awakening their armies, much in the way that the 6th grade generals of Qin did so in the past. And with this, the whole Zhao left army decides to withdraw. Now if Qin decides to push on through the right, and Osen moves in with the center, they could enter a decisive endgame with Riboku. Osen hears word that the right army is pushing through, so he finally gives the order to the fully rested center army to advance. The right would hound the Zhao forces while the center kept pace, and moved the line forward. Tonight is the last day to hand out food, and to congratulate the men for their hard work, the officers went around to hand out the food personally. "Here you go, Bihei. Thanks for today," says Shin. Shin reminds them that they made good progress today, and that Riboku's head is within their grasp. Riboku, however, remains confident that the Zhao will come out of this predicament victorious. Gyou hopes that Kaine's master, Riboku, does not meet his untimely demise. She then takes offense to this, thinking that he's jinxing them. Chougaryuu and Gyou are thankful that Shin and Ouhon have awakened, as it makes things much more interesting. 4th commander of the Osen army, So-Oh, commends Osen's prediction of Shin and Ouhon awakening on the battlefield. "I expected the Haishin unit to awaken, but the Gyou-Ho was a slight gamble," responds Osen. After the right lost to Koa, they should have targeted Chougaryuu, the brains behind Zhao's left. To derail the Qin right army, Kaine says they'll focus their efforts on taking out Ouhon. Gakuei's forces come from the center to help out Gyou in attacking the Haishin unit. Now amidst all the confusion on the battlefield, the Gyou unit goes missing. Gyou's unit then redirects its forces to the right battlefield in effort of taking out Ouhon's head. A few dozen cavalry start moving in an arc, and this group was being led by the 10 Spears, a group of truly elite soldiers, and amongst them was none other than Gyou himself, the Glaive of Nightmares. Chougaryuu prevents Qin soldiers from helping out Ouhon, as he finds himself in a battle for his life. Ouhon and Kanjo aim for a single point in the formation, allowing the 5,000-man commander to escape. Now to allow this, Kanjo needed to serve as the young master's shield from Gowon's attack. Kanjo looks to be done for, but Ouhon decides to stay and save his life. Ouhon has lost the sensation in his arms, but at this point, he has no other choice but to stay and fight. With Earl Shia the Wayfire dragons having fallen to my spear in the past, there is no reason that I cannot also defeat Gyou. Ouhon then pierces Gyou's right forearm with his spear. The Zhao general pushes through the pain and slashes through Ouhon's spear and knocks him off of his horse. Kanjo reminds his men that they still have a chance with the Haishin unit, as we see that Ouhon is still breathing ever so slightly. Shin senses that something is going on the other battlefield, as he wonders if Ouhon is giving it his all. Thinking that Ouhon's unit was done for, Chougaryuu and Gyou decide to withdraw. The current shape of the right side was as follows, with the Haishin unit making significant progress, and the Ouhon unit going into a complete withdrawal. After the 13th day of battle, Shin goes to Ouhon's unit and explains how they'll beat the Zhao tomorrow. The Haishin unit then begin eating a meal of hot water and dead horse meat. With Ouhon and a Ko out of commission, Shin is to become the commander of the entire right wing. "Then let's get this meeting started so we can destroy the Zhao tomorrow," yells Shin. Meanwhile, in the city of Gyou, many of the refugees have noticed strangers with bandages on their face. 14 days earlier, we find out that these men were none other than the Qin soldiers infiltrating the city. Back in the present, these covert soldiers light a fire to the large eastern granary. In fact, all 4 of their large storehouses have been set on fire, meaning that they've lost more than half of their food. Witnessing the smoke from outside, Kanki says, "Sure took their sweet time." Now being the head strategist for the entire right wing has made Ten quite nervous. Now to break the tension, Kyoukai decides to cop a feel. I mean, whatever works, you know? In a more serious moment, the 3 main heads of the Haishin unit vow to achieve victory. Now Riboku cannot send reinforcements to Zhao's left, for if he does, Osen will unleash the full force of the center army. However, if Zhao can eliminate Shin right here and right now, the victory over the entire Shukai plains will be all but assured. Now the Haishin strategy on the 14th day could only be described as letting the enemy cut your flesh so you can break their bones. Shin is like a torrent on the battlefield, inspiring all the men fighting by his side. Now the current battle arrangements are as follows. With the Haishin unit facing off against the Chougaryuu army, Chougaryuu controls the left army, so if Shin can take him out, it will be decisive. Now warfare is all about flow, and Chougaryuu intends to change that flow to his benefit. Shin will not allow these new arrangements to impede his path, as he is a man who will become a great general. The newbies for the Haishin unit then find themselves surrounded by Zhao soldiers. Shosa then comes to save Kanto from certain death. While they make their escape, Shosa gets stabbed in the back and falls to the ground. He stands back up and reminds them that they must support Shin in becoming a great general. Shosa fights on with every last bit of his strength, as they finally make it out of the enemy encirclement. Shosa then collapses to the ground, as the newbies pick up their commander and head out. And with his dying breath, he mutters, "You can do it, Shin. You can do it." Now there's an intense fight at the front, and Shin finally reaches the enemy HQ, but Chougaryuu decides to abandon it straight away. He then implements a sudden flank attack, which catches the Haishin unit off guard. Shin then encounters the left and right captain of the Chougaryuu army. He gets pierced in his side, but slices off one of their heads in the process. Kyoukai manages to fight her way to Shin's position, but getting out of this mess will be a whole nother matter. This is why Kyoukai says that they need to eliminate Chougaryuu's strongest forces right here in one fell swoop. Now it's quite an insane idea, but because it's so unexpected, it might just work. Nevertheless, Chougaryuu gives the order to grind them down. Kyoukai takes out Josho, the right captain of Chougaryuu's army. Shin does not want her efforts to go to waste, as they continue slashing through the Zhao forces. After the dust settles, the Haishin unit has successfully cut down the elite forces of Chougaryuu. Kyoukai pushed herself so hard that she passed out on the battlefield. While contemplating their options, Shin receives word of what happened to Shosa. Shosa bestows his spear to Kanto, as the Greenhorn graciously accepts it. Shin rushes over to Shosa as his body collapses into his commander's arms. Despite the somber mood, Ten can't allow this opportunity to slip through their hands. "Move out, Haishin unit. This time we'll take Chougaryuu's head for sure," says Shin. Ouhon hears about the current situation, and wonders how a man of his caliber could be pushed into a corner. The Haishin unit looks for the decisive blow against Chougaryuu, as the Zhao commander reminisces about his old master. Now it turns out that his old master went head to head with General Oki of the Qin army. "You should pray for good luck. I shall be doing the same." "Ko. For whose good luck, may I ask?" responds Oki. "Who knows?" responds Rinshoujo. Rinshoujo wanted to see a unified China through the Zhao, but if anyone else wanted to achieve that same thing, they were to be destroyed. Bananji wants to plow his way through the Ako army so that he can slay Shin himself. Chougaryuu batters Shin with his immense strength, but the Qin commander refuses to give up. Now Shin is woven together with the hopes and dreams of all the people he's come into contact with. He then draws upon the power of Oki's glaive, and swings down into Chougaryuu. It wasn't enough to finish him, however, so Shin reinvigorates himself that he can finish the job, and take one more step to becoming a great general under the heavens. The echoes of triumph. The Chougaryuu forces look to retaliate, but the Naki clan comes in to put a stop to this. Ten commands her forces to spread the word that the Zhao commander Chougaryuu has been slain by Shin of the Haishin unit. With this, the remaining forces would surround the Bananji army in a pincer attack, culling their army by more than half. Naturally, news of this would reach Riboku and Osen's ears. Unfortunately, an unexpected visitor would enter the Qin camps that night, and it was none other than the Bushin himself, Hoken. What is happening right now? Now it turns out that Riboku has nothing to do with Hoken's presence here. He came on his own accord. Ten informs Shin that once they push through the Zhao's left, they are to hit Riboku's center army from the side. To everyone's surprise, Ouhon then emerges from his tent, seemingly recovered from his wounds. Yotanwa and the Mountain people feel uneasy, sensing that today will be the final day of battle. Mouten intends to change his battle plan so that they can go on the offensive. Shin is shocked to hear that Ouhon is back on his feet again, and what's more, he's ready to enter the battlefield. Kyoukai senses that Hoken may be targeting Shin today, as she informs him that she'll guard him from danger. It is now day 15 at Shukai Plains, and the final day of fighting is ready to commence. Now the Haishin unit brought out every last bit of its strength for this battle today. Osen's army didn't wait for the right army to punch through, as he began his swift advance against Riboku. Now with this arrangement, Ten determines that Osen intends for the Qin right army to take Riboku's head. For the first time at Shukai Plains, Osen and Riboku's armies would finally collide. Riboku remains confident that they need to only sit and defend until the Chin are nothing more than skin and bones. Just then, however, Riboku receives an urgent message from Gyou. He changes his formations to assume an offensive stance. In a brief flashback, a messenger informs Riboku about the burnt food supplies in Gyou, and how it will fall to Chin within the half day. Riboku must now defeat Osen today, and on the second day head towards Gyou and scatter the Kanki army on the third day. Bring Riboku to his knees. We shall also be launching an all-out attack, says Osen. The Zhao forces move forward on the left side, as Ouhon has his eyes set on killing Shin and Ouhon. Without waiting for an invitation, Ouhon comes forward to embrace the challenge. Riboku's army began to slowly push back the Osen army. Osen then counters with a probe. But this is no ordinary probe. It was filled with elite soldiers that were plowing their way through the battlefield. Shiryo of the Osen army slices through the Zhao soldiers. Riboku's army then attempts to split the Chin army in two. The situation remains discombobulated, so Osen marches forward with his core army. Kaine remains confident that Osen will not solve Riboku's tactics. The forces plow ahead without changing formation. They engage the Zhao in a rudimentary fashion, surprising everyone on the battlefield. Osen explains that Riboku has constructed a hybrid army that combines both the strengths of strategical and instinctual generals. Riboku is truly a monster. Osen is quite the monstrous one too, as he reads and effectively counters Riboku's formation. Osen's army would then make their way west to link up with Denrimi's army, a move that caught everyone off guard. Though this move seemed chaotic, Osen is in complete control of the situation. He assumes the Red Crane formation, which allows him to come face to face with Riboku on the battlefield. Riboku demands for Osen's surrender, since Chin's defeat is all but assured. Osen reminds Riboku that the Zhao king is an imbecile, and if he would have mobilized the forces in Canton, Chin would have stood no chance. But as the situation lies right now, Chin is in control. Now the only thing protecting the Zhao forces is Riboku, and if he should be removed from this world, Zhao will instantly collapse. Join me, Riboku. With you and your skills by my side, the two of us can usher in the beginnings of a whole new kingdom, one that shall stand unrivaled in strength over all the rest.
Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy.
Now what Osen is suggesting here is a new kingdom with Riboku, but the Zhao commander says that this is utterly foolish. Allow me to make this very clear. I will never allow Zhao to fall to her enemies, Osen. Osen then gives the order to kill Riboku. Osen is confident that the right wing will break through, as Riboku is equally confident that the Chin will fail to do so. Jin's arms are at their limit, as he has spent the last few days firing arrows non-stop. When the time comes, Jin wants Tan to fire arrows in his stead. Unfortunately, Tan still looks incredibly nervous right now. Despite not being at 100%, Ouhon decides to confront Gyou head-on. Shin is inspired by Ouhon's incredible resolve, as he motivates the Haishin unit to take Gyou's head. Gyou reminds Ouhon that China is at the precipice of something major happening, but he will put a stop to it before it reaches Zhao's lands. The two go in for the climactic clash, as Shin screams out for Ouhon. Ouhon deflects Gyou's strike with his spear, and thusly uses the momentum to redirect the tip into the Zhao commander's chest. Shin then prevents the Zhao from taking advantage of Ouhon's precarious situation. Gyou reminds them that if they truly wish to unify China, they must see it through to the very end, no matter how bitter the cost. And with this, the final member who served under Rincho Zhou has fallen in battle. The joyous news has then spread amongst the Chin army. And with this, the Chin's right army has beaten the Zhao left wing, and it's all thanks to Shin taking up the commander spot. Their next and final objective is clear. They must attack Riboku from the flank. Riboku doesn't seem concerned about Chin's right army breaking through. That's because he's got Kinmo at the ready for an ambush. General Hoken then arrives at the center battlefield. "Riboku, I have come for the answer," says Hoken. Riboku says that he does not hold the answer, for it is someone else who does, and it's none other than Shin. Now if the Haishin unit cannot break through Kinmo's army, the entire campaign for Chin will be lost. Akakin provides a much needed boost to the Shin forces as they begin picking up speed. Kinmo is furious that his army has proven no match for the Haishin unit once again. Shin's unit finally breaks through the right wing, as they now emerge directly on the side of Riboku's center army. Osen's pincer attack has finally come to fruition, as Shin's forces smash into Riboku's center army. Fute reminds Kaine that the winner has not been decided yet, as he still remains confident that Zhao will be the winner. As his lines begin to falter, Riboku commands Fute to carry out a special mission. Now Osen's men consider this to be a suicidal baiting move by the Zhao, as they're confident that Osen's HQ of 5,000 men will not fall. Fute's forces then smash into Osen's HQ. Now Osen senses that something else is coming, as the Bananji army comes from the flank. An eye for an eye, a pincer for a pincer, says Riboku. Bananji's forces avoided Shin's right wing to proceed south, and that's how they were able to sneak up on Osen's flank. Kisu orders Bataille to take a mid-sized army to the center's aid. To counteract this, Mouten personally led the chase after Bataille's unit. Bananji unleashes the full brunt of his strength, a sight that was truly terrifying, even to the Zhao forces. Zhao detachment forces reach Osen, but he takes them out in a flash. Osen's HQ descends into utter chaos, as Riboku believes that victory is within his grasp. Despite his condition, Ouhon must muster up the rest of his strength to save his father. Fute relishes the opportunity of taking Osen's head, as the Zhao forces look to have the decisive advantage. Just then, Ouhon's unit comes to the Supreme Commander's aid, to prevent a Zhao rout. Choosing to come here with your paltry numbers changes nothing, says Osen. You are a fool. I mean, goddamn, what a father, right? Your end has come, Osen, says the confident Bananji. Mouten's unit then smashes through the formation, as the leader heads straight for General Bananji. Bananji looks to end him in one swing, as Mouten uses his sword to redirect his body so that he can attack from a lower angle to slash him across the face. And with this done, they must now focus all their efforts on protecting Osen's HQ. That is, until Shin takes down Riboku. They still haven't slain him? How can that be? Thinks Riboku. Now with Ten redirecting traffic for the Haishin unit, their talent is on full display. However, she's also vulnerable to an enemy attack. Jin's hands are covered in blood from shooting arrows non-stop. Kimbo then leads a personal charge to capture Ten, as the Shin strategist makes a run for it. Arrows pierce her from multiple angles as she falls off of her horse. Just before she meets her end, Jin sends an arrow right through the Zhao soldier's head. He continues firing arrows non-stop until his bow breaks from the tension. A Zhao soldier captures Jin and looks to pierce him in the neck, but he meets his demise with one of Tan's well-placed arrows. Now Kimbo looks to handle his situation himself, but Tan shoots an arrow straight through his chest. Nevertheless, Kimbo overcomes the pain, looking to use the last of his strength to strike Ten down. But Tan does not allow this, sending an arrow straight through his head. Tan checks in on Jin as Ten returns to her post. Kaine hears the roar from the left, as Shiryo gives her a good stinger. Bataille instructs Kaine to go to Riboku's side while he takes care of Shiryo. The Haishin unit has Riboku within their sight, as Kaine begs for her commander to retreat. Riboku maintains his composure, as there's no guarantee that Shin will reach him. I shall be your witness, Hoken, over these final moments, thinks Riboku. Osen utilized Bananji's injury to move his forces forward. As Riboku's HQ came into view, Osen realized that the Zhao commander was close to losing. Unfortunately, for them to kill Riboku, they would have to deal with Hoken first. The Zhao general obliterates the Shin forces. Kyoukai then enters the fray and attempts to take him down. Now her aim is to take him down before Shin arrives. I dance for thee, O god of lightning, says Kyoukai. Kyokai's dance is effective, allowing her to cut several fingers off of Hoken's hand. Hoken knocks her back, calling her a mere imposter, for he is the Bushin. She draws upon every last bit of her strength, but it's still not enough to take him down. He raises her body into the air, but she pierces his forearm with her sword. Return to the earth, caller. He tosses her body at the Shin soldiers, as Shin catches her. Shin hands her body to Bihei, as he prepares himself for the battle against Hoken. Just what the hell are you, Hoken? Hoken thinks of Oki and enters a state of rage, and he uses this vigor to send Shin flying back. Riboku tells Kaine that Hoken is a representative of mankind. Now it turns out that Riboku first met Hoken in the mountains after a crushing defeat. Now Hoken chose not to end his life, since he sensed that he still had a role to play. You are the one who shall guide me towards the answer that I seek. Now Hoken comes from a tribe of path seekers, individuals that aim to transcend humanity by secluding themselves in the mountains. Their goal is to demonstrate to the heavens that they transcended humanity. If they can accomplish this, they will evolve humanity as a whole, so that perpetual conflict and suffering will be eliminated. Slaughter all who bar your way. Hoken overwhelms Shin with his immense strength. He then cuts Shin across the chest, as the Shin commander spurts blood out of his mouth. Shin refuses to give up, as Riboku claims that they both represent mankind. Hoken goes into an absolute frenzy as the Haishin unit worry about their commander. Now Shin holds the answer for Hoken, since he is mankind's representative, to overcome this brush with death. Now 17 years ago, Hoken encountered the strength of General Oki, and because of this, Hoken is a walking contradiction, because he has attained the human peak of strength, yet he still lost to General Oki. Shin's body is getting torn to shreds by Hoken's glaive. Hoken is the pinnacle of martial might, but Shin possesses a strength for those who have come and gone in his life. "Hoken, your blows have no weight," screams Shin. Hoken repels his attack and says that he is doomed to repeat the same mistakes. Riboku admits that Hoken is mistaken. Mankind, after all, cannot transcend itself. Ultimately, a man can only just be that, nothing more and nothing less. Kyoukai stirs awake, attempting to reach out for Shin while he's fighting Hoken. Though Oki and Dukyo identified the contradiction within Hoken, neither one of them was able to defeat him. Now all the people that Shin has come across are standing with him in this moment, all together as one. Hoken is unable to take Shin down, which makes him doubt his path as a Bushin. He reassures himself and swings with all his might, yet his glaive is shattered to pieces. Despite this, Hoken continues to fight on with his broken weapon, but Shin will now allow the path towards becoming a great general end here, as he uses Oki's glaive to cleave Hoken's body in twain. In a flashback, a Bushin slaughtered a village and stole a baby. Presumably this was a baby Hoken, the tragic path of the man who offered everything to martial might. "I have borne witness to your conclusion, your final moments, Hoken," thinks Riboku. Riboku has thinned out Osen's numbers enough that he can make a break for Gyou and scatter Kanki's army. The Haishin unit is in the perfect position to chase them, but Shin's internal embers have been blown out. Osen then wonders why the Haishin unit is not pursuing Riboku. Now Shin's heart stops beating as his body goes cold. He's dead! Shin is dead! Everyone cries for their commander, as Ten reminds him that he's supposed to become a great general under the heavens. Kyoukai walks over and says that she can still help him. Now it turns out that there is a Gyou technique that can bring people back from the dead. She then enters the gap between heaven and earth, a place where she encounters Yuren. Now if she offers up half of her remaining life, it'll be a 50% chance that Shin will be revived. "Take it all," responds Kyoukai, "so please, let me save him." Kyoukai begs for Shin to stop as he begins to walk towards a red staircase. Shin can't see her, as he then encounters Gyou, who happens to be there to guide him. Shin can't remember his dream as Kyoukai clenches onto his body. Kyoukai wants to tell him his purpose, but Gyou says that he must remember himself. Shin must become a great general under the heavens, as Kyoukai stands up and hugs him. She then pushes him back into the mortal realm. Shosa and Kyoukai do the same for her, as the two Shin commanders wake up to the cheers of the Haishin unit. A storm of cheering. Kyoukai tells Shoni that she became interested in Shin very early on. Kyoukai's lifespan has been shortened, and she can no longer use this technique in the future. She wakes up as Shin thanks her for saving his ass. Now Shin is too weak to re-enter the fray, as Mouten informs him that Riboku has made it out unscathed. It was a complete retreat by the Zhao forces. Mouten instructs him to take it easy, as Shin has emerged victorious. Kanki wants to take the city with the Zeno clan, as word comes out that Riboku's army is coming. Another report says that Osen is hot on Riboku's tail. Now one day earlier, we find out that General Dorimi will be staying in these lands, to prevent Zhao from retaking their land. Osen then gives the command to head towards Gyou. Osen's forces cut down Riboku's rear forces, as Gyou is currently on its last leg. Riots break out within the city, as the refugees start lighting fires at the rich estates. Due to constant attacks to the rear, Riboku was forced to slow down and face the Shin properly. Now due to their limited numbers, Shin would have to disengage, but this was all part of the plan, to slow Riboku down. Riboku conducted a night raid on Osen's forces, as his core army made it for Gyou. And in the morning on the 18th day, Riboku's forces would finally reach Gyou. Riboku's exhausted forces must now contend with the Kanki army. Now Osen says that the difference in this war was the three pawns of Shin, that being Mouten, Ouhon, and Shin. They all raised to the challenge, and were able to throw Riboku's carefully constructed plans into complete disarray. To the horror of Riboku and the Zhao army, the refugees of Zhao force the gates open. They flood out of the city as Kanki's army makes their way in. Now watching this scene unfold zapped any remaining morale Riboku's army had left. Realizing that Zhao's entire existence was now threatened, Earl Choki of Gyou decided to kill himself. Realizing that he had lost, Riboku decided to preserve his forces, and to abandon the city altogether. Now Shin has successfully taken the city, but the bad news is that they still don't have any food. Mouten reminds him of this fact, but it turns out that Osen had a shocking resolution to this matter. The Haishin unit enters the city as they start asking Shin for more food. General Tori from the north comes down to cut off the supply from the Yotanwa's army. Now for them to survive this, they must cross Retsubi once again to receive supplies from their homeland. News comes into Kanyo about Gyou. Now Shohei instructed Kyoki to head to Retsubi with more supplies. General Kocho, the guardian of Canton, orders his troops to attack the supply teams. "Burn it all! Let not a single grain reach Gyou intact!" exclaimed Shunsuju. To their surprise, all the containers are empty. Now it turns out that the real food supply is being transported down the Yellow River via Chin's naval fleet. Unfortunately, all naval routes to Gyou had already been sealed off. Riboku then receives a royal decree that he is to head back to the capital of Canton. If he refuses, they'll kill his subordinates on the spot. Riboku is locked up and taken away, as we see that the Chin supplies are descending into the Yellow River. Hearing of the news, Heki wants to help out the Osen army, but Yotanwa reminds him that this is impossible, since there's no way to safely transport the food. Kyoki could only watch helplessly as the Chin supplies would sink down to the bottom of the river. And with this, Shunsuju says that Chin's gambit has failed. Riboku then requests that they send an urgent message to Kaine. Just then, as supplies as far as the eye can see enter the city of Gyou. To circumvent Zhao's army, Chin would rely on Qi to provide them with supplies. And this would work out perfectly because Qi shares the waterways with Zhao, but from the opposite side, which means that they didn't have a naval fleet to stop them. And it turns out that Chin paid King Oken double the price for the safe passage of these materials. Dig in with my blessings, soldiers of Chin. The Chin forces thusly stuff their faces. Now there's enough supplies to keep them fed for about a half a year. Now with every move that they made and every sacrifice, they accomplished the impossible, bringing down the impregnable city of Gyou. Sei is thrilled by the news, and he's thoroughly impressed with Shin's results. Riboku is then threatened with a public execution, but the Zhao general warns that Retsubi will be taken next. His pleas went unheard, however, and sure enough, To's army diverted its attention from Wei to march towards Retsubi. The shocking news would spread throughout the various states. To's army reaches Retsubi, as Zhao now has to worry about them and a rear attack from Osen's army. Shin then has a nightmare about Kyoukai being cut in half. General Iko has recovered from his wounds, and has been sent out from Gyou. A messenger reports that Riboku is to be executed as a punishment for his loss, making Shunsuju not so happy. Zhao needs to withdraw at once, so they could save Riboku from his punishment. Chin would thusly gain complete control over Retsubi, Ryo, and Gyou. Upon their return to the capital, they would be celebrated as heroes. Shin then visits his new estate for the first time, and it's quite impressive. Shin meets up with Issei, and finds out that he needs a family name before he can become a general. Now his friend, Hyo, took on the family name of Ri, so Shin decides to do the same one and becomes Ri Shin. 5 months have now passed, and Chin wasted no time in sending its citizens to the new territory. Now this is the updated map of Chin. Rishi has been dispatched to the region to help stabilize things. Now with Riboku under lock and key, there's no better time for them to attack. At the award ceremony, Mouten, Ouhon, and Rishin are all made generals by King Issei. And with this, Shin's got 10,000 men, and Kyokai's got 5,000 of her own, which means they have a total force of 15,000 soldiers. Osen is transferred from Mobu's army to Mouten's army. Now Canton is next on the agenda, but they must be wary of Ouhon and Hango, 2 strong Zhao cities that could pose a problem. Elsewhere, Kaine attempts to break Riboku out of prison, but she's ambushed by the Zhao soldiers. While taking a bath, King Tojo relishes the opportunity of executing Riboku. Now Riboku's recommendations do not get passed along to the army. Crown Prince Ka begs for his father not to kill Riboku, since he is the protector of Zhao's lands. Now King Tojo proceeds to bite off his ear, and tells him to get out of his sight. With Riboku's execution set, Canton will be ripe for the picking. Shunsuju and Kaine will need to rescue Riboku when the time arrives at the execution grounds. Now upon exiting his bath, King Tojo collapses to the ground from chest pain, and proceeds to die on the spot. Osen assembles all his generals to devise a plan for taking Canton. A message then comes in that the Zhao king has suddenly passed away. Upon assuming power, Ka releases all the men that were unjustly imprisoned. And of course, this includes Riboku. Riboku recommends that they mobilize the royal capital's army, which Ka agrees to. With a capable king at the helm, Osen predicts that Zhao will be born anew. And with this, Osen will need to rethink his plans for taking Canton. Ka orders his men to arrest a traitorous man who worked hand in hand with his father. Now before Tojo's passing, he passed down a royal decree that Ka was to be removed from the line of succession, meaning that Sen, the younger son, would succeed the throne. What a horrid travesty for Zhao. With this, assassins waste no time in going for Riboku's head. Kakukai, who is Tojo's right-hand man, is now serving as the guardian for Prince Sen, and the guardian for Prince Sen demands Ka and Riboku's heads. Riboku wants to take the king to the small city of Hosho. They soon find themselves in a fight for their life against a group of Canton soldiers. Riboku barely escapes. Now the Bananji army would hold off the Canton army so that Riboku could make it to Hosho. Ka apologizes to Riboku and says that Zhao's royal family is filled with rot. With Ka's chances of becoming king slim to none, Zhao's future looks to be rather bleak. Despite it all, Kaine will always be by Riboku's side. The next morning, Riboku is glad to see that all his vassals are in one piece. Riboku wants to lay low for a while until the day comes where he can regain control of the military. For this to happen, however, Shin will have to run amok, forcing Sen to get desperate and to hire Riboku back. So with that being said, Riboku's gonna have to bide his time. But until then, he's gonna come back stronger than ever. Now Canton's forces prevented Shin from making any further moves into Zhao. Kyoukai would strengthen Hango and Heiyo, and the reason that he did this is he was using the information that he gathered from Riboku when he was in his cell. It was all a means to make himself look a lot better. Now Aise learns that Ryofu has been amassing support behind the scenes, and the time has now come for them to eliminate Ryofu permanently. After 3 years since their famous talk, the two rivals meet once again. Aise urges Ryofu to quell the unrest in his city. Ryofu warns Aise that kindness is one of his strengths, but at the same time, it may grow to become his greatest weakness. Ryofu verifies Aise's convictions and gives him an unexpected hug. A month later, Ryofu's power would only grow. So Kanyo sent him a decree that would strip him of all his territory and his wealth. And because of this, Ryofu would subsequently kill himself with poison, a conclusion that weighed heavily on Aise's heart. Now somewhere off in the country we see a carriage, and it contains none other than Ryofu, and it seems like he's looking to explore the far reaches of China's lands. And perhaps he'll even become a merchant once again.